So with that being said, I'm glad you brought that, Steve. So this is one thing I want to touch on. This election here was an election that was probably the most controversial election in our time, probably of all time. We had a couple different things going on with this election. We had a form of a tyrant at the wheel in the United States, which called to action a lot of individuals to really do something that wasn't done in the past. We had a lot of people that never voted that came out to vote. It's in the it happened in the midst of, let's say, a pandemic in the United States, COVID-19. This also happened during the height of Black Lives Matter in the death of George Floyd. So there's a lot of components that went in here. This is a time when you even had Republicans disassociating themselves from that party. So we got all those things mixed up in that same pool and spent off, let's say, in this
which Republicans?
Yeah.
Because the Republicans that
speak on it.
Well, it's like in any state. Your constituents are going to drive the things that you back or you don't back. So as you see right now, you have a lot of Republicans not coming out telling Donald Trump to concede because their political careers are still tied to Donald Trump.
Correct.
Right? Just like in some of those more liberal states where you may have a Republican senator or a Republican representative somewhere, they may take a different stance, right? They may not publicly come out and diss Trump, but they're not supporting him either, right?
Correct. But the point I was getting at is that this was an election where we had a lot of Republicans that came out extremely vocal, that took a stance, that showed that they weren't really for Trump. I'm not saying that we know the ones that actually still was rocking with him.
Before or after they knew he lost?
Before. I'm talking about ones that actually were against Trump.
Oh, we're not talking about the politicians. We're talking about the voters.
Oh no. Okay. So with the voters. Oh, okay. Different point. I was referring to the politicians.
Okay.
I was talking about those the politicians. I didn't make sure they were vocal, saying that we're not going this way, and we can go all the way back to the ironic the McCains and the W. Bushes and those different people.
Yeah,
that's what I was referring to.
Yeah,
you're right in regards to the voters.
I think the ones that came out against him have always sort of, like Mitt Romney, for example, right? Always been a critic against Trump, right?
Yeah.
Because he's not tied to Trump, whereas everyone else isn't. So there are a couple of prominent, or not prominent, but well-known Republicans who have jumped out the window like that. But they've jumped out a window when their careers are no longer tied to him. Yeah. You understand what I'm saying? So, okay, I'm not getting reelected in my state again. Oh, I'm going to come out and I'm going to talk out against Trump. Trump didn't get me elected, so I don't have to adhere or bow down to him like other Republicans do. So, again, in the same vein, you look at it now, it's quite clear that he's going to lose. And he's probably going to lose very badly. Georgia right now is very close, so there's definitely going to be a recount in Georgia. But history has shown that recounts don't do nothing but change a couple hundred votes.
So let's say this.
Yeah.
And what Steve is speaking to is, we know for the most part, from what we understand right now, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have actually won. Yeah. But from a data standpoint, everything still needs to be completely vetted out going forward.
Each state needs to confirm the results.
Correct.
Right?
Okay. So
go ahead.
I want to go somewhere.
Yep.
Georgia and the African American votes that came out that kind of swung this election to some degree, as people state. Don't know how factual this is, but the speculation is that the turnout of African American voters, mail-in people that voted through mail-in ballots or whatever you want to call it, helped kind of swing this election. That's why initially there were two different visuals. But Trump was winning at the day one. By day two, when they started counting them other votes, it started to swing.
Well,
what is your? I'm going to give you this. What is your thought behind the power of the vote? Because remember, and I'm saying this, and I want you to answer from this standpoint. Remember, everybody was talking. You had people saying, "Hold the vote," and these are black people.
Yep.
Hold the vote for hostage.
Yep.
Don't vote.
Yep.
Joe Biden ain't doing nothing for the black people. He hasn't shown us anything. Trump is doing this. There was so much of that going on. And what we saying was we did see an amazing turnout from minorities in this particular election. Mm-hmm. What's your thoughts behind that, and how do you feel from places like Atlanta that helped push it? Connecticut, where we're at, that's guaranteed. That was already a no-brainer. We Democratic, those electoral votes were going there. Mm-hmm. Speak upon your feelings in regards to those turnouts from those other areas from a minority standpoint. And then after that, let's segue into the understanding of the Electoral College and those votes there. Okay. Let's talk about that.
All right. So, okay, where to begin? I will say this. I feel like more people voted against Donald Trump than they did vote for Joe Biden.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Fully agree. Fully agree.
With that being said, you look at places like Wisconsin, right? You look at places like Michigan. You look at places like Pennsylvania. These are states that Trump won last time go around, right? In 2016. One of the reasons is, Hillary wasn't maybe very liked. Barack Obama wasn't on the ticket. So what you had is you had places like Detroit that in Barack's time came out and won him the state, right? Won him Michigan, to turn around and not come out in 2016 and Trump wins Michigan. So the battleground states have been Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania,
Arizona,
Nevada, and Georgia, right?
Don't y'all be looking at my password.
Ohio and all of that. They're always similar, right? Those states are always the ones in question. They can swing either way. And it all depends on how much of the electorate is going to actually come out and vote, right? Okay, yep. And so to your point of asking, well, what about this whole hold our vote thing? I don't think it was ever we need to not vote. I think it was more of we need to hold our vote for Biden to tell us what he's going to do with our community.
So I have a problem with that. So let me tell you.
But let me finish. Yeah.
But hold on, before you finish, I'm telling you what my problem is with that right there.
Go ahead.
You have people like Charlemagne, and different people coming out, and even Puff Daddy, which he retracted his statement on that, saying, "Hold our vote."
Yeah.
Biden doesn't have a plan for us. We're not just giving our vote to people. This, that, and third.
Yeah.
My problem was this. When you have a tyrant or you got somebody to the level of what Donald Trump is and the rhetoric that he's pushing out there, I didn't feel we were at a position to turn around and hold our vote, because the worst case scenario is we'll get more of the fuckery or what's going on with Donald Trump out there by turning around and supporting and getting behind the Biden and Harris movement. What we did was we allowed ourselves to say, regardless, we're going to get the trash out. We don't know. We know this individual is not perfect, but we know how bad this is. We know the worst case scenario. So holding the vote to me never made any sense, because, and I'll go somewhere else with it. I do not believe that we should ever be in a position where we're telling another person out of our community, white, I don't care what race, out of our community, what plan do you have for us in our community? That's something that we need to develop, formulate, put together, and present and say, hey, we need you to back this plan. Not what? No, we don't need a plan. Us, he can't give us a plan. He needs the support whatever plan we put there. So to turn around and hold our vote from a person that can be a vehicle to push what we need, to me made no sense.
I think you're misunderstanding what I'm saying. I'm not saying that Biden is the one that needs to come up with the plan. What I'm saying is we as a people, black people, may not agree on an agenda that has like a top 10 agenda for us, right? We may not all agree on what should be in the top 5 or whatever it is, but for the most part, we're all on the same page on what needs to change. We need economic change, right? We need education, right? Housing, or home ownership, rather, right? We can agree on a lot of different things. So the question becomes, when it comes to our vote, are we just going to be a part of this tribe where just because we're black, we're going to vote Democratic. To which, to which now our vote is taken for granted. So then when we're asking these politicians or we're putting people in office and expecting them to do things and they don't do them, and then that now takes the average voter who might say, you know what, my vote doesn't count because when I try and vote, it doesn't change anything. My point being is, all I heard from at the time that Charlemagne and Puff came out and said we should hold our vote, all I heard from Biden at that point was everything that Trump wasn't. And again, when people jumped up and said, well, what are you specifically going to do for the black community? It's not for you to set the agenda. The agenda has already been set. People have already spoken on what the needs are. The needs are not something that we don't know. So what are you actually going to do for us? You didn't have a plan. So to me, it's hold the vote until you can actually speak to what it is that you're going to do for us. And I'll give you an example. And I don't mean to keep going on. But when you look at last year or last election, all I hear on the news is how in 2016, suburban white women is the reason why we lost the election, or we Democrats lost the election. No one is talking about the fact that nobody came out in Detroit, nobody came out in Philly, nobody came out in Michigan, nobody came out in Wisconsin. Right? Which nobody came. Which
is apparent right now. No, I'm supporting your point. I'm to your point. No, I'm getting at your point. I'm agreeing with your point, which this election has shown that it is people not coming out that really which control.
And that's wrong.
You don't think that people coming out was the problem with the last election? What I'm
saying is not that didn't just become apparent now. It was apparent then.
No.
Because you had the numbers then to show that we didn't show up.
Okay, I agree. What I'm saying is, for those that didn't think that, is apparent to them now. They thought it was the white woman vote. Now is apparent to them is that the people didn't come out. So I agree with you saying that was the case back then, but some of them were blinded and they thought it was something different.
My thing is I don't think it's a blind thing. I think it's a narrative thing. It's what narrative are you painting, right? So I'll give you example. I was watching most of the channels. I watch Fox. I watch CNN. I watch MSNBC.
Hold on.
Right? I watch all
Fox.
of them.
Let me speak to that real fast. For those that pay attention and stay engaged with these politics and stuff, please don't only watch the CNNs or the Democratic type of viewpoint news, media and broadcast. You got to watch the other side, man, to get a whole picture and understand what's going on. Tune in to Fox, man. You got to see. It's like understanding what the enemy's doing. We ain't going to call them the enemy, but we going to say that. You got to see the whole picture, man. Y'all stop being pigeonholed in tunnel vision and looking from one lens. Understand the whole picture holistically. So continue on. I just wanted to.
Yeah, I'm not
get stuck sometimes.
Yeah, I'm not an expert. I'm just my opinion, right? Yeah. So my thing is I'm watching it and they start talking about Florida, right? Okay. And the Cuban vote in Florida. Then they start talking about the Hispanic vote out in Arizona, right? And this is before when they weren't sure whether or not we were going to win Pennsylvania, right? We were coming up in Detroit, but we hadn't overtaken yet, right? But they were talking about the vote and how we were starting to overtake, how we were leading in Arizona, and they were just talking as if the Hispanic vote, and there's nothing wrong with it because the Hispanic vote did win Arizona for Joe Biden. There's nothing wrong with talking about that. But they were talking about it almost in a vein of, this is the reason why Joe Biden is going to win, right? Then we win Detroit. Detroit votes start rolling in. Okay, we win Michigan. We win Wisconsin. We win Pennsylvania. We win Georgia. Where are the votes coming from in these states to where we win? Because if you go and you look at the map, it's all red, right? But we know that the population centers are in the cities. Correct. And who are in these cities? Minorities are in these cities, right? Black and Hispanic. Let's not parse, but majority is black. Correct. So because of the overwhelming evidence of what happened in Wisconsin, Michigan, Philadelphia, and Georgia, especially what's going on in Atlanta, they have no choice but to say, yo, we're the reason why you won.
Correct.
They have no choice.
All right, so let me go somewhere
else. But if they had a choice...
We rocking now, baby.